All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a feeling that I'm willing to bet every single one of us knows a little too well. We're talking about having this deeply held idea, a passion or a truth just burning inside you that absolutely nobody else seems to get. And we're going to explore why that friction isn't a failure at all. Actually, it's the exact opposite. That feeling of being misunderstood, it's a crucial signpost, and it's pointing to something way, way bigger. Let's get right into it.
So seriously, have you ever had a genuinely brilliant idea that absolutely nobody else understood? It is incredibly frustrating, isn't it? Let's just be real for a second and acknowledge that visceral sting of social rejection. I mean, it genuinely hurts. When we hit that wall of friction, our immediate gut reaction is to assume, well, if I'm out of step with everyone else, I must be wrong. In a world that is just completely obsessed with fitting in and getting that quick validation, being misunderstood feels like this giant, flashing neon sign yelling, "You failed." But what if that feeling is totally deceiving us?
Well, get ready for a massive perspective shift. To be great is to be misunderstood. That is the radical reframe introduced by Ralph Waldo Emerson in his absolutely powerhouse of an essay, Self-Reliance. Emerson completely flips the script on how we view rejection here. He's not just trying to make us feel better, giving us a comforting little pat on the back. No, he wants us to see that being misunderstood isn't some sort of weakness or a mark of shame. It's actually a badge of honor. It is a potential hallmark of true greatness.
So to really grasp this, we need to understand what Emerson actually meant. He coined this concept called spiritual innovation. And basically, it's the friction and the static that occurs when a truly disruptive, brand new idea just smashes headfirst into the old, comfortable way of thinking. Emerson saw that a genuinely original idea doesn't just neatly or politely add a tiny little thought to the ongoing conversation. No way. It aggressively challenges conventional wisdom. It completely disrupts the comfortable little narratives people have built their entire lives around. And that disruption, that is exactly why it causes so much friction. It's not a failure to communicate, it is the literal byproduct of having vision and courage.
And this idea built into something even more profound. Emerson referred to this group of visionaries as history's holy company. You see, he didn't just pull this bold claim out of thin air. He brought the historical receipts to back it up. He's showing us that if you feel deeply misunderstood today, you absolutely shouldn't despair. Why? Because you are actually walking in the very footsteps of the architects of our modern world.
Just to put our modern fears into perspective, let's look at the brutal consequences these historical giants faced just for having heretical ideas. I mean, you have Socrates, who was literally executed simply for teaching kids to ask questions. Jesus, crucified for challenging the entrenched powers that be. Martin Luther, branded a heretic. Copernicus and Galileo were put under actual house arrest just for daring to say, hey, maybe we aren't the center of the universe. And even Sir Isaac Newton, whose sheer genius redefined physical reality itself, faced deep, profound skepticism. Every single one of these innovators was pushed away, mocked, and severely punished by the people of their time. And for what? Simply for daring to see the world differently.
Seeing all of that historical evidence, well, it begs a pretty urgent question, right? Why does society always seem to push away its most forward-thinking, brilliant minds? Like, why is the immediate reaction of the crowd always so hostile and defensive the second they're presented with something new? To truly understand this, we need to dig a little deeper into the psychological mechanics of that pushback. We basically need to figure out why society's immune system attacks new ideas so violently.
To figure that out, we have to look at the core conflict. On one side, you have the visionary. They see a new truth and they eagerly offer up this innovation. But on the exact opposite side, you have the status quo. Now, to the status quo, this new truth doesn't feel like a beautiful gift. It feels like an attack. They are terrified of disruption. And what's absolutely vital to understand here is that this pushback, it's rarely malicious. People aren't rejecting an idea just for the fun of it. They are desperately trying to defend their worldview. A truly revolutionary idea threatens the very social scaffolding that provides everyday stability and security for the masses. So, to the crowd, the visionary isn't an innovator, they're a direct threat to the foundation. Well, at least until history catches its breath, looks back and realizes, oh wait, the visionary was right all along.
Okay, let's pull this centuries-old philosophy straight into the present day. Because, sure, while we might not be facing literal house arrest for studying the stars anymore, the underlying dynamic hasn't changed one single bit. Let's look at what we can call the 21st century conformity trap. How does this exact same historical friction play out in our hyper-connected, incredibly fast-paced modern lives?
Well, the modern pressures to conform are immense, and honestly, they compound so quietly that we barely even notice them happening. First off, there's our cultural obsession with likes and metrics, which brutally turns your self-worth and the value of your original ideas into a simple, shallow numbers game. Then, you have the corporate world, armed with these polished buzzwords like team alignment. Now, that sounds great on paper, right? But in practice, it often quietly smothers a brilliant, jagged, outside-the-box idea before it ever gets a chance to take a breath. And finally, the intense fear of failing in public online. The lightning speed at which everyone can judge you today, it cranks that fear up to 1,000. All of these modern pressures actively herd us into a safe, comfortable little box of conformity, which, as we know, is the exact opposite of the brave originality Emerson was calling for.
Listen really closely to this. If your ideas fit perfectly into today, you are not speaking to tomorrow. Seriously, just think about the weight of that for a second. If everything you do, everything you create or pitch gets instant, universal applause from the crowd right out of the gate, then by definition, you aren't building the future. True innovation is always, and I mean always, a little bit out of step with the present. Instant validation usually just means you're playing it way too safe.
And this brings us to a really critical pivot. It means we have to completely shift how we experience this friction. We actually have to start wearing the pushback as a badge of honor. You see, Emerson's essay isn't just some cozy comfort blanket to wrap yourself in when someone doesn't understand your new business plan or your art. Not at all. It is a strict command. It's a call to action to be undeniably brave in the face of inevitable pushback.
So how do we actually survive this friction and embrace our own genius? It really boils down to 4 actionable steps. Step 1, trust your experiment. You have to live in your own genius without constantly looking over your shoulder begging for validation. Step 2, endure the loneliness. And yeah, it is going to be lonely sometimes. True originality almost always requires standing apart from the crowd. Step 3, live your truth. Do not, I repeat, absolutely do not, water down your voice or smooth out your rough edges just to fit in neatly. And finally, step 4, stand taller. When you inevitably feel that sting, that pain of being misunderstood, remember your company. Remember Galileo, remember Newton, remember Socrates. You are an absolutely excellent company.
And all of this brings us to the most important point of this entire explainer. Because this isn't just about history or dissecting some old essay. It's about you, right here, right now. So what are you willing to be misunderstood for? Take a second to really let that challenge settle in. What idea, what truth, what vision do you believe in so deeply that you are entirely willing to stand alone for it and endure the static? Finding the answer to that question? Well, that might just be your very first real step toward greatness. Thanks for learning with me today, and I challenge you to go out there and build tomorrow, even if nobody gets it today.